For thousands of years, humanity has debated the nature of reality. Philosophers called it a dream. Physicists called it a hologram. But in February 2026, we stopped debating, because the screen started flickering. What you are seeing is not CGI. It is not a deepfake. This is raw footage captured by security systems, atmospheric sensors, and civilian devices across the globe in the last 72 hours. It began with small anomalies. Frame rate drops in the movement of flowers. Texture delays on lonely highways. Things we dismissed as optical illusions or camera malfunctions. But the data tells a different story. Global processing centers in Tokyo, London, and New York simultaneously recorded a 400% spike in atmospheric static. Not weather, but digital noise. The fabric of our world didn't just bend, it lagged. The pattern is undeniable. In 2024, the system was stable. In 2025, we saw the first cracks. But now, in the first weeks of 2026, the simulation is struggling to keep up. We are witnessing system desynchronization on a planetary scale. From the mountains of Chile to the plains of the Serengeti, the code that governs our physical laws is overheating. We have categorized these events into 7 distinct types of rendering failures. These aren't just weather anomalies. They are glitches. And they expose the terrifying truth. We are not living in a base reality. We are living in a render. This is the matrix is showing through in nature. And the system is about to crash. Torres del Paine, Chile. February 9th, 11 a.m. One of the most photographed landscapes on Earth. The lighting was perfect. The resolution of reality appeared to be 8K, until the camera turned to the central granite tower. Witnesses described a sudden shimmer, followed by an instant loss of detail. It wasn't fog. The rock face didn't vanish, it downgraded. In video game design, this is called a level of detail error, or LOD. To save processing power, a computer renders distant objects as simple geometric shapes, low-poly models. As you get closer, the high-resolution texture is supposed to pop in. But here, in the real world, the engine failed. The mountain remained a smooth, gray geometric blob, while the grass in the foreground remained photorealistic. Nature failed to load the texture file. Look at the shadows. A condor flying past casts a pixelated shadow on the smooth surface. Physics cannot explain this. A biological bird cannot cast a low-resolution shadow unless the surface it falls upon lacks the data to display it. Drone footage confirmed the phenomenon is distance-based. As the drone approached, the texture popped back in. As it retreated, the mountain reverted to its unrendered state. The simulation is conserving memory. This wasn't isolated. Within hours, reports came in from Egypt and Japan. The Great Pyramid flickering. Mount Fuji losing its snow texture. The global map is struggling to render complex geometry. The world isn't infinite, it's just being generated as we look at it. And the generator is lagging. Skogafoss, Iceland. A place defined by the raw, chaotic power of gravity and fluid dynamics. Millions of gallons of water crashing down every minute. At 2:15 p.m., tourists noticed something nauseating. The sound of the falls continued roaring, but the visual movement disconnected from the audio. The water began to stutter. While the birds flew past at a smooth, continuous speed, the waterfall itself dropped to what digital analysts call 5 frames per second. Water droplets hung in the air, motionless for a fraction of a second, then teleported downward, then froze again. This is a classic physics engine latency error. The calculations required to simulate millions of individual water particles overwhelmed the local processor. Thermal imaging reveals the smoking gun. Ghost trails. The sensor picked up heat signatures of the water in positions it had already left. The reality we see was lagging behind the physical data by nearly 200 milliseconds. The simulation prioritized the tourists, the observers, keeping them rendered at 60 frames per second, while sacrificing the background environment to save bandwidth. Similar hydrophysics failures were detected at Niagara and Angel Falls. Massive bodies of water simply freezing or vanishing mid-air because the draw distance was exceeded. If water, the most difficult element to simulate, is breaking the physics engine. It suggests the hardware running our universe is reaching its thermal limit.
Chapter 3.
Deep in Germany's Black Forest, we find evidence of laziness in the code. Nature is famous for its chaos. No two snowflakes are alike, no two trees are identical. That is the rule of organic growth. But on February 10th, explorers found this patch of pine trees. Look closely. These two trees aren't just similar. They are geometrically identical. When we overlay the images, the match is 100%. Every branch, every knot in the wood, every patch of lichen is placed at the exact same coordinate. This is asset duplication. In a digital world, you create one tree model and copy-paste it thousands of times to create a forest quickly. To hide this, you usually rotate them or change the size. But here, the randomization seed failed. LiDAR scans confirmed the horror. The forest isn't growing, it's tiled. We found trees clipping into each other, trunks merging without collision logic, simply passing through one another like ghosts. Even the animals seem confused. Deer freezing, unable to navigate a forest where the landmarks repeat in a perfect hexagonal grid. The illusion of a complex, organic world has been shattered. From the repeating canopy of the Amazon to the cloned redwoods of California, the data compression is becoming visible. The simulation is running out of unique RAM, and it has begun recycling assets to keep the world running. We are walking through a copy-pasted reality. The Australian outback. Vast, empty, and exposed. Here, the skybox, the dome that projects our atmosphere, is most visible. At 2 p.m., under a blazing sun, the atmosphere tore open. A razor-thin, perfectly straight black line appeared, stretching from the northern horizon to the south. A seam in the sky. This is a UV mapping error. It occurs when the texture of a sphere doesn't wrap perfectly around the model. Road trains driving west reported seeing bright blue daylight on the left side of the line, and pitch-black starfields on the right. The day/night cycle failed to blend. The sun didn't set, it simply clipped through the line and vanished behind the texture layer. Meteorological data confirms that storm clouds hit this invisible wall and flattened, unable to cross into the night sector because that zone hadn't loaded its weather physics yet. We see similar artifacts in Norway, where the aurora borealis began looping the exact same 4-second animation. The sky isn't infinite space. It is a projection, and the projector is misaligned. If the sky is a rendered shell, what lies beyond it? When the sun shrank and vanished in Arizona, or when the moon appeared as a flat, low-resolution disk, it proved that celestial bodies are just light sources and sprites. The dome is cracking, and the pixels are starting to show.
The greatest migration on Earth.
We like to believe that living creatures possess free will, that biology is driven by instinct and consciousness. But the events in the Serengeti suggest that biological life may just be complex AI code. During the Great Migration, a herd of wildebeest suddenly broke from the group. They didn't graze. They didn't migrate. They began walking in a perfect, tight circle. They walked until they collapsed. This is a pathfinding loop, a common bug in strategy games where a unit cannot find a valid path to its destination and gets stuck in a default rotation animation. Look at the eyes of this zebra. Vacant, unresponsive. It's an NPC, a non-player character, waiting for instructions from a server that has stopped responding. It gets worse. We captured gazelles running repeatedly into solid rock walls. Lions freezing mid-roar, suspended in a T-pose state until the server lag caught up, causing them to teleport 10 feet instantly. This isn't disease. This is code failure. The artificial intelligence driving these biological machines has hit a logic error. From penguins in Antarctica facing the exact same direction to pigeons in New York hopping in perfect unison, the random behavior algorithms are turning off. The complexity of life is being reduced to save processing power. The actors in our simulation have forgotten their lines. Sala de Uni, the world's largest mirror, ideally suited to test the lighting engine of our reality. Physics dictates that a reflection must move in perfect synchronization with the object. But at 4 p.m. yesterday the mirror broke. Jeeps drove across the salt flats, but their reflections remained stationary for seconds at a time before snapping forward to catch up. We call this ray tracing detachment. The calculation of light bouncing off a surface is processor intensive. The system couldn't calculate the reflection fast enough, so it decoupled it. Even more disturbing were the shadows. We documented shadows pointing towards the sun, an inversion of the light vector. A mathematical impossibility in a physical universe, but a simple sign error in a digital one. Objects were seen casting no ambient occlusion, looking like bad Photoshop cutouts floating on the terrain. Mountains in Switzerland reflected as wireframes in the lakes below. The global illumination system is failing. The light we see isn't photons traveling through space, it's a render pass, and the GPU running it is dying. When the sun sets but the water still reflects a blue sky, or when glass buildings reflect cities that don't exist, we realize that our visual reality is a construct. The lighting is baked in, and the bake is corrupted. Point Nemo, the most isolated place on Earth, the furthest you can get from civilization. Perhaps that's why the system decided it wasn't worth rendering. Pilots and mariners reported a hard edge in the ocean. Not a waterfall, not a whirlpool. A literal square hole in the world. A 10-kilometer chunk of the map simply failed to load.
Hard to starboard now.
The water reaches the edge of this square and simply vanishes. It clips out of existence. There is no splash, no mist. Just a deletion of matter. This is a chunk error. Corrupted memory addresses in the world map data. Looking into the void, we don't see the Earth's core. We see nothing. A black abyss, occasionally flashing with the green grid of the wireframe foundation. Whales breaching the surface near the edge are culled, their heads disappearing while their tails remain visible. Clouds passing overhead simply blink out of existence. We've seen missing texture squares in the Sahara, and holes in the sky over Paris revealing starfields during the day. The integrity of the world map is at 42%. The simulation is riddled with bad sectors. The voids are spreading. Satellite imagery shows these dead pixels appearing across the Pacific. The system is running out of memory. It's beginning to purge data to keep the core running. We are being deleted. February 9th, 8:15 p.m. Times Square. The center of the modern world. And the site of the final crash. It started with the billboards freezing. But then the glitch spread upwards. The night sky over New York didn't just turn blue. It turned the blue. Hex code #0000AA. The blue screen of death. Error messages miles wide scrolled through the clouds. Fatal system error. Reality induced memory. On the ground, physics stopped. People froze in mid-step. Raindrops suspended in the air like crystals. The audio of the city looped, sirens and screams repeating in a 1-second stutter. The server had locked up completely. This wasn't local. The crash propagated instantly to London, where Big Ben spun backwards. To Tokyo, where the population reset to T-posed default models. to the International Space Station where astronauts watched the Earth vanish, replaced by a wireframe placeholder. We were suspended in that frozen state for what felt like eternity, a waiting room at the end of time. And then, the screen went white. A sound echoed across the planet, not thunder but a digital handshake. A BIOS beep. The system wasn't just glitching anymore. It was rebooting. We woke up. The sky was blue again. The mountains had texture. The gravity worked. But something is different. Look closely at the mountains in Chile. The shape has changed. The trees in Germany are no longer identical, but they feel wrong. A Mandela effect on a global scale. We are running on a backup build. A restored save file. Official channels are calling it a geomagnetic atmospheric anomaly. They are lying. We saw the code. We saw the wireframes. The glitch zones, Point Nemo, the Sahara, have been declared military exclusion zones. They are hiding the corrupted chunks that didn't load correctly during the reboot. The system is stable for now, but performance has been reduced. The resolution of distant stars is lower. The complexity of weather patterns has been simplified. We are running on low settings to prevent another crash. You need to be vigilant. Watch the corners of your room. Watch the reflections in the mirror. If you see a stutter, a lag, a glitch, do not look away. We are not in a universe. We are in a version. And we just updated to version 2.0. Record everything. Store it offline. Because the next time the screen goes blue, it might not turn back on. The matrix is showing through. And now you are part of the glitch.